For so long, I had this pain, and I thought it was nothing. And I lived in this like blissful naivete. Once I knew when the pain would come, I was like, that's cancer in my stomach that's trying to kill me.
It was during one of the busiest times in her life when Hope began feeling stomach pains.
This sharp pain in my side, and a lot of times it would come and go pretty quickly, and so I'd forget.
Her husband had recently been diagnosed with MS, and she had started working at a startup company. Hope simply thought she had a stress ulcer.
But then it became more nagging, where it would stay for hours, or it would come in and out throughout a day. And so at that point, I was like, this has to be dealt with. It was probably 3 or 4 months between the time I started having symptoms and when I went to the ER.
She presented with abdominal pain to the emergency room here, and they worked her up with some imaging and found out that she had a mass in her colon.
And the doctor comes in to Chad and I and says, I don't believe it's benign. And still, even at that point, I didn't think it was that big a deal. There's no history of cancer in my family. They couldn't tell me anything. Stage 1, stage 4, I mean, they couldn't tell me anything.
Hope reached out to her church for prayer. Then one of the elders' wives called her.
She said, I had a friend who had colon cancer, and she's doing great. You know, in fact, she had colon cancer while pregnant. And her and the baby did great, and I couldn't let it go. Like, just every time the world was quiet, I just heard colon cancer while pregnant.
She decided to buy a pregnancy test. It confirmed Hope was in fact pregnant.
It was not even a week after we found out I had cancer that we found out I was pregnant. And I was shaking, and I came out and I told Chad, and he's excited. I'm like, no, this is not good. I have cancer.
I've only seen 1 or 2 other cases that presented like this in pregnancy. It's extremely uncommon.
I had the high-risk OB and the regular OB in the room. And the first time I met with them, they're talking about that it would be easier if I aborted. I was like, that's just stop. Because they asked me a couple times and kept bringing it around. And I said, it's not an option. I was only 5 weeks pregnant at that point. And so the risk of, they call it spontaneous abortion, so miscarriage, was very high at that point. I said, well, what point does it get better? And they said, it gets a lot better at 10 weeks. I said, well, let's wait till 10 weeks.
Now Hope had to wait for her baby to grow and pray that the tumor wouldn't.
God really sustained me. The most important part of the story is the peace that he gave me throughout.
She began to write about how God was helping her through it all. People who read her blogs began asking her about Jesus.
People were hearing about God's goodness in the midst of my suffering throughout my journey. I got to see how God was using my suffering in real time. I was driving to work one day, and I was just like, I trust you, God. I trust you with my life. I trust you with everything, and I believe that your will is good and perfect. And even if I have to suffer, you are good, and you're with me. And I very clearly felt him say, but what if you have to die? What if you have to die for my will to be done? No, I'm not okay with that. I have these little kids. I have this baby in my belly. Like, what if she comes and I don't make it and she doesn't know me? Like, my husband has MS and he's gonna be a single dad of 3 children. Like, no, I'm not okay with that. He wanted me to be okay with it. He wanted me to trust him to the point of death. If there are people who don't know Jesus but could know Jesus through my story, then that's worth it.
The time came for surgery to remove the tumor and part of her colon. Hope prayed her baby would survive.
So her surgery was about 3 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Less than a week later, he called me. He's talking like 100 miles an hour. Like, slow down, slow down. And he's like, it's only stage 2. And I'm like, only? Huh? Like, it's stage 1, you know, too. He's like, no. We all thought, meaning like this whole team of doctors, that you were at best stage 3, possibly stage 4. The size of the tumor, the fact that you had pain, the enlarged lymph nodes, they all believed, based on their medical history and all my symptoms, that I was stage 3 or stage 4.
Now she needed to know if her baby was still healthy. She went to her 12-week appointment.
The doctor who had been with me this whole time, she was so excited. She's like, you're out of the woods. She's like, you're past the typical miscarriage time for, you know, a normal pregnancy, and the surgery's 2 weeks behind you. She's like, if anything bad was gonna happen, it would've.
Months later, Hope delivered a healthy baby girl.
It's easy when you're on the other side to say that God was good and He is good, but to be able to, in the midst of it, when you don't know how it's gonna turn out, to still sing His praises. And I am grateful for what I went through, because I got more of Jesus and it drew me closer to Him. And I feel like I know Him better when things are good and when things are bad. God doesn't change. He is not a reflection of our circumstances. He is not bad when life is bad and good when life is good. And He never changes.